Hi everybody, welcome to this workshop about Juno. I'm David, I'm a freelance web developer, and I'm the creator of the platform we're gonna use today to build awesome application on the internet computer. We're gonna first have a quick look of what's Juno, what makes Juno cool, and then together we're gonna build a note-taking app. So Juno is an open source blockchain as a service platform that makes you build Web3 app easily. And to do that, it uses the same concept as you most probably know, those that comes from the Web2 world. In a more picture way, you know on Web2 there is that notion of serverless. You may know platforms like Firebase, Amazon Amplify, and so on. And Juno basically ports that concept on the blockchain on the IC. So what makes Juno different? First, Juno is open source. Juno is also built for the developer, and only the developer have the control of their work and their product. It has a usage-based pricing thanks to the reverse gas model of the IC. And in the future, Juno will become a DAO, and the product you built on Juno will become DAO. When we have a look to the architecture, we see that developers, when they connect to Juno, they don't use Juno to administrate their work. They get a smart contract, a canister, which we call the mission control, that is used to administrate their application, which are also smart contracts themselves. So in that schema, what I want to show is that basically Juno is just a facilitator. The developer has the controls on everything, till the users. So what makes Juno different when building? First of all, it's focused on front-end development. You don't need to write any backend code. All the complexity is extrapolated. It's also framework friendly. That means that whatever you're gonna use, React, Vue, whatever, it's like almost no configuration. You basically add a library to your app and you're good to go. It's also a zero knowledge feature development because since it tries to make everything easy, you don't even have to know most of the concept. It's also easy to set up custom domain with Juno. There are some monitoring tools, and there is support. Like if there is any question, you can always ask the community, but also me directly. So what's built in Juno? In Juno, you have an authentication that is built in, and all other features that are available have built at the top of that authentication. That means that you have a simple database, a file storage for image, video, and so on, and the custom domains. As I said, there is also monitoring, and I'm currently working on upgrading the memory to 64 gig and providing also some analytics. That's like my two secrets projects that currently in the development. And in the future, I can imagine that I will also make payments really easy to set up. And like I said, DAO, I will also bring that notion of that developers in Juno can sell their templates or provide more complex construct and open it to other chain support, like for example, having an Ethereum signing or so on. Yeah, that's basically it. So let's code. We're gonna build a note-taking app, and we're gonna do that like really step by step. I even assume that you might not have any idea of what's the IC. So let's begin by cloning the repo I've prepared for that workshop. So go to GitHub, build with Juno workshop. I'm gonna show you again the QR code if you want to scan it. All right. So I'm gonna clone the repo. All right. Once we got the repo, it comes with various versions. There is an Angular, a React, a Vue version. So you can pick whatever version you rather like. I'm gonna use the React one, assuming that most of the people who are gonna watch the video use React, but again, Juno is agnostic, so it works out of the box with any framework. So we go to React and we install the dependencies. While it does that, as you can see in the repo, you have really all the steps we're gonna follow during that workshop. So if you want to repeat the experiment or follow with some documentation, you can go there. Good. Okay, we are all set. And I'm gonna open the project in my editor. All right. Super. So, now that we have the project, the base that is set here, the first things we want to do is create that mission control, that administration console that help us build apps. To do so, we go to the console of Juno, so we can go directly to the console, or we go to the website, juno.build, and we click Start Building. When we are there, again, I'm assuming that you are new to the IC, we're gonna create a new internet identity to sign in Juno. But if you already have one, if you use internetcomputer.org as a domain, you can sign in here. If you have one that is on ic0.app, you can sign it there. But here, I assume I've not got none, so I continue with internet identity. For those that are new, internet identity is the decentralized authentication provider on the IC. It allows an easy sign-in that you can use to sign in Dapps on the IC. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna create a new identity, which also is a passkey. And when I create that passkey, one thing to know is that internet identity works with web-auth. That means that there is no password, and I either use my face recognition or my fingerprints and so on, or a key to sign in. Prove that I'm not a robot. All right. And everything worked fine. So now an authentication is created for me and I get a number. And that's basically the number I have to remember to sign in. So basically it's like I enter my number and I validate my authentication with the fingerprint or whatever sensor I have used. So here I just gonna save that for later. You don't have to do that. If you, let's save it here, that's better. Most probably you're gonna save that in a password manager and so ever. Where was I? Right. And I've saved my number. And if everything goes fine, you see now I'm redirected to Juno. And Juno gonna create that mission control. So if I go back to the slides we had before, basically we have signed in Juno, and now Juno is creating our mission control for us. Or for me, not. Right. Now that I got that canister from which I can administrate my project, my application, we're gonna create one Dapp. For today's demo, we're gonna create that note-taking app, right? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna launch a satellite, because in Juno we call this Dapp, this decentralized smart contract satellite. So here we're gonna call it, for example, note-taking app, or whatever name you want to give, and we create satellites. So in Juno, the first satellite is for free, and then the next satellite costs currently half as an ICP. Right, our Dapp is already ready. That was quite fast, it's awesome. And then you have the choice between having like a tutorial that explains you how to set up everything, or to just set up static website. Because for example, if you want to just host your personal website on the IC, Juno is probably the simple way to do that. But because we are doing that workshop and following the README here, I'm just gonna skip that part. All right. That's my administration console. All right. So we are all set. We have an identity. We have signing in. We have a mission control. We have a DApp. So now what we're gonna do is we are going to connect that particular DApp with our project. Okay? So we're gonna do this step here. As you see, there is always like a to-do in that README with find and replace. So the workshop is built that way that you can always find a keyword and then replace with the snippet that is provided. So in that case, we're gonna search step 1 is initialization in our project, see here, and we're gonna comment the code, and in this particular case we have to enter our unique project ID, unique satellite ID. Here. All right, so what we did here is at the top of our React app, when the app starts, we initialize Juno by giving the satellite ID. And when it will start, it will make the connection with our satellites. And that's already it. There is no more configuration. So if I start my app, all right, as you see, nothing particular, no error, everything is fine. So now that we have set our app, we want to build the authentication. So, because as you see here, nothing is happening. To do so, we search for the step 2, which is the sign in. So I got a sign in button. So I'm gonna add a sign in callback attached to one click. And as you see, sign in is just a function that is provided by the Juno library. Juno library, which is pre-installed in that here, in that sample repo. But if you start a new project, you're gonna install that library. And that's it. The sign in should already work because all the complexity is hidden in the library. So if we go back here, if I click sign in, as you see, I'm able to sign in. So here, one thing to note is because I'm using Chrome to develop, and I previously created an identity in Brave, I used another passkey because each passkey you make in internet identity is linked with the browser or the device you have used. So you can attach your anchor with multiple browsers. So it's the first step to do, but not really related to the workshop we are doing. All right. As you can see, the sign-in worked out, but nothing is happening. And that's because in our app, we are not yet checking if the user is connected or not. We have just called the sign-in, but we don't know if the user is signed in or not. So to implement that, I'm gonna actually go to the step 4, where you have auth subscribe. All right, so we search the step 4 and we uncomment that part. So what's happening here? The library is providing a function or a callback called oldSubscribe. And every time the user sign in, sign out, and so on, it will kick automatically. So what you can do is that you can subscribe to that callback, and in particular case of React, I save that user in a state, but it's going to be the same principle regardless of the technology. So here, as you can see, because it refreshed, we see now more things that we can do because the user is signing in. We're going to also implement the sign out so that we can check both states. So if we search for the step 3, which work basically the same as signing in, we add a non-click to a button and we use a function called sign out that comes from the core. And if we go back to our example, I should be able to sign out and I should be to sign in. And where it comes really handy, so first I'm gonna wait. Yeah, you see, it's signing works. Where it comes really handy, if I go back to the Juno's console, where we created our satellites, we can go to the authentication. And here I see that there was one user that's signing in. It's all anonymous because internet identity is anonymous at its core. But still, I can see that how many users are signing it and when they created their sign-in. Likewise, if, for example, I would sign in here with another encore because it's like having multiple account, you know, it's like I can create as many as I want. All right. If I refresh here, I should see 2. Yeah, wonderful, and so on and so on. And that's built at the core of Juno. That means that from there, all the other features can already work with it. So you don't have to build like user management system and so on. It's already there. So now that we have authentication, we want to store data, like whatever object you want to save. And for that, we have a simple database, which is basically a key store value. So we're gonna search the step 5. And we're gonna uncomment it. All right. So set documents, that's again a function that comes from the library. What does it do? We see in a collection note, we're gonna have a look to that right now. It's gonna save a document with a key. In that particular case, I use nano ID to generate like a random ID, but that can be whatever string you want to be. And you're gonna save a text within that data, because in our app, when we add an entry, we can add some text, okay? As you see, we want to save in a collection called nodes. So that collection system works like that. If you go to the data store, since we want to save in the data store, you see I don't have collection right now. So we're gonna create one. And because we want to save in nodes, we're gonna create a collection with that key, with that name. And then, because there is that authentication at its core, we can define read and write permission. So I can see that everybody can read, everybody can write, or the user and me as the developer of the application can read and write that data, or controllers, and controllers are only the administrator of the satellites. So for that particular use case, we want the user of the Dapp to be able to write. I mean, those here should be able to read and write, and me, I should be able to read and write. That's the default. So we're gonna keep manage. All right. So as you see now, if we go to data, we have nodes, but it's empty. As we have no nodes, doc and doc, we are ready. So if I go back to the application, and here I'm gonna click submit. All right. Nothing is displayed yet because we don't read the data, but I don't have error. That means that the data were submitted to the Canister smart contract. So if we go back to our console and we refresh it, if I go to notes, you see here I got now a document which the text I provided. If I go again, entry, I submit, it's called set docs, it goes to the collection, and so on and so on. And if I refresh, I gonna see, here we go. Here we have some option to sort and so on, but I guess you get it. So now what we want, because save works, we want to be able to list those docs, all right? So we go to the next step, step 6. We search it, and if there is a set doc, there is also a list docs. So I'm gonna take this and comment. So what this does, it's a list, and here too we say to each collection there are various options, like you can filter, you can sort, and so on and so on, but here we're just gonna list everything. There is also pagination, by the way. And if we go back, you see here our entries are added. We can try again. Great, so I'm able to enter document already. So that means that already I can save data on chain. That's quick. So we can do that for data, but maybe it's also interesting to save files or, I don't know, like images. Fundamentally on the chain, like an image or data are not different. But the thing is, like when you save in the simple database, you are limited to a 2 mega per object. So when you want to save bigger file, there is that particular things which we call the storage. So we're gonna go to step 7. And again, we're gonna uncomment the content. So what's happening here? We got a function that comes from the library that is called upload file, where you give a collection, which we're gonna create. You give a file, that's like the file object that comes from an input type file, and you can provide like a file name. But let's have a look to the collection. So basically, the storage and the simple database works the same. That means that you have to create collection, and you say what are the permission and the write permission. The only difference too is that everything that is added to the storage is then made public on the internet through the browser. But there is an option to make those private, in the sense that you can add an argument, if you want to do that, called token, where here basically you can add a super long chain and only know those that knew that could access to it. And you can also limit the size so that your user don't bloat your memory. But here we're gonna use the simple use case, and I just create a collection images with the default settings. Right, so we got that set up, and here there is just one special case which is related to that workshop, is because in the UI I want to display the entry with the related file. We're gonna save a reference within the document to that storage URL. So what we do is, in this method, which is add, we first upload the image to the smart contract. We get back a link to that data, to that file, and within the JSON object that we save in our database, here URL, we save that reference. Okay? So I don't have an image here, so I'm gonna take like a, let's find an image. Do I have something here? Yeah, super. So let's open it. Here I got like a small image, right? Okay, we're gonna upload that. So a new React logo, and I select the file and I submit. All right. So if we go back to the console now, as you can see here, I got an image, right? And if I go to my database, that's our new React logo, and that's the URL to the image. That's why here I can display it, and I can display a link to that image. And here, if I open it, you see we got our React logo. Likewise, if I go to the storage, to the image, here, I'm also gonna have here a link, and I can answer and open that file. All right, so that's it. Yeah, we took, I don't know, 15 minutes, and we have built an app with a login, a logout, a user authentication, a user management system, a database where we save object, and a file storage where we can upload image and so on and so on. Everything interconnected. So yeah, it's already good. But our app is not yet deployed on mainnet. Here we are working locally. So what things we can do? We can package our Dapps and launch it on the internet computer. So is that described? Yeah. So what we have to do is to install the CLI, which I already done on my laptop. And once it's done, we're gonna do a login, so Juno login. It opens your default browser. So as I am using Brave here and not Firefox, I have to copy the link to open it in Brave. You can provide an argument to open Chrome or Firefox, but Brave, it's particular. Here, what we want to do is we want to give our terminal, so my computer, the permission to manage my smart contracts. So here I can select my mission control and the particular app I've done. I can also add like a small name, a hint, and I submit. So what it does is it creates my key, it provides that public key to the smart contract, and it authorizes my CLI. So here, as you can see, I'm logged in. So now what I can do is I can build my app, right? As I want, as you would do when you launch. And because it's the first time, we're gonna initialize our project to connect it with the satellites. So here I do Juno init and I select my satellites, and then we have to say where are the build files. So in that case it's a build folder. Where are the compiled JavaScript and so on. So build is the default. All right. That have been done once. We can deploy. So what it does, it takes all these files here and push them to the smart contracts on mainnet. So, oh, that was fast. It's already done. So I can either copy the link or I can just do Juno open. As I told you, there is an option to select the browser. And here I am. But you see, before we were locally. No, I'm on the IC. So if I sign in with another anchor, I'm in, and just gonna use the same image as before, right? No, I should maybe change the name, because in that particular case the name is no, actually I renamed the name. I should have not do it. Anyway, it's uploading things, but if we go to our console, I can see that there is one more. One thing to know too is that the authentication, the user, they are created according to the domain. So if you sign in locally, when you run localhost, or you sign in using this with the same identity, that's gonna be 2 entry in your authentication. But if I go to my notes here, where is it? What did I wrote? Ah, here. It works with the logo. And here in the image, we got now 2 images. That's the new one. That's super. And that's it. I mean, the URL is a bit complicated, but we have a smart contract and app that is already living on the IC. Final part, which we gonna skip in that workshop, is Juno also is setting up a custom domain. So if I would have another name for that app here, I would come to the hosting, add custom domain, say for example hello.com or whatever. I would press continue, then I would do my DNS entries. I would click ready, and Juno, with the help of the boundary nodes super feature, would set up everything for me. And that would be already it. Another things to know too is like here I did a Juno deploy from my terminal, but Juno was also a GitHub action so that you can automate all the process of your workflow. Like for example, the Juno website is hosted in a Juno satellite, and it's a GitHub action that already publish it every time we make changes to the doc or the blog. That's it. So thanks for your time. You can get started with Juno. If you have any question, reach out and have fun building.